Hello, I am Dennis B. Dozano of Carusa Integrated School from Kapatagan West District. In this video, I will be presenting my action research entitled Effectiveness of Paired Reading through Community Learning Facilitators. The National Reading Panel 2002, as cited in Bernardo 2013, views reading as a complex system of deriving meaning from print. Reading is also viewed as a process which is physiological, cognitive, communication, psychosocial development, and skill. Villanueva and De Los Santos 2008. The National Reading Panel of 2002, as cited in Bernardo 2013, suggests that the ability to read requires proficiency in 5 language domains, namely the phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. Phonemic awareness is the ability to distinguish and manipulate the individual sounds of language. Phonics refers to the understanding of how letters are linked to sound, toponym, patterns or letter sound correspondence and spelling in English, and how to apply this knowledge when the readers read. Fluency is the language domain that results when one reads orally with speed, accuracy, and vocal expression, which provides a bridge between word recognition and comprehension. Vocabulary is the knowledge of words' etymology, structure, part of speech, and what they mean. It can be learned indirectly from what have read and through conversations, or directly through specific word instructions or through strategies such as breaking longer words down into familiar parts. The most complex cognitive process in which a reader intentionally and interactively engages with the text is reading comprehension, because the reader makes sense of what is being read. National Reading Panel 2002, as cited in Bernardo 2013. It has become inevitable, however, that children with reading difficulties, learning disabilities, underachieving reading students are increasing within the regular classroom setting, according to Walter 2002. The National Assessment reveals that there are many early grade learners struggling to meet the learning standards in early language, literacy, and numeracy. There are many low-performing learners who could not read and understand math and signed word problems that are written in English, and elementary and high school learners are still deficient in literacy skills both in languages and content areas, more so in reading. Through DepEd Memorandum Number 173 Series of 2019. To address and respond to these challenges, the Department of Education strengthens Every Child a Reader program (ECAR) and implements HAMON, Bawat Bata Bumabasa, or the 3Bs initiative. ECAR equips learners with reading skills to make them proficient and independent readers in their grade level, capacitates teachers to become effective reading teachers, and nurture a culture of reading in schools, communities, and various levels of governance in DepEd Central Office, regional offices, and schools division offices. The 5 language domains and skills in reading required by the National Reading Panel of 2002, as cited in Bernardo 2013, make up the big 6 elements to develop an effective reader within the addition of oral language based on DepEd Memorandum Number 173 Series of 2019. Oral language encompasses both a wide use of vocabulary and familiarity with language structures that are developed in engaging complex conversations. One crucial factor that greatly affects reading comprehension is reading readiness, aside from predictors of school entry, physical and clinical factors, neighborhood, community and school-based factors, and family-based factors, according to Bernardo of 2015. Bernardo 2015 describes reading readiness as the purposeful process of preparing a child for reading and the stage when a child changes from being a non-reader to a reader. It covers not only encouraging or motivating a child to read and engaging him or her to want to read, but it is also the stage when the child can recognize and react to the sounds of language and start to develop imitative reading, according to Maryland State Department of Education and Johns Hopkins of University Schools of Education in 2010, as cited in Bernardo 2015. To fully realize and support the goal of the Department of Education to help non-readers become readers from national level to division level through the Bawat Bata Bumabasa initiative, the Project Care for Norman Readers or Project CNR, and the iRead. The Carusa Integrated School has implemented its reading program entitled R2Me or the Reading Readiness Made Easy as a response based on the PhilARI results for the school year 2019-2020, where there are 34 learners who are non-readers and who belong to prostration level. It is the vision of R2Me to eradicate this growing number of non-readers to help them develop their reading skill from introductory sounds, combination of sounds, advanced sounds, and supplementary exercises and exemptions to configurations previously taught. This will be followed by the Carusa compilation of Marongko approach and the Carusa compilation of Fowler approach and Carusa compilation on reading comprehension. However, the threat of COVID-19 pandemic has affected face-to-face classes and the traditional implementation of school programs in schools, including the use of small groups to carry out activities. To respond to the needs of the learners who are non-readers and who belong to the prostration level, the Carusa Integrated School innovates its existing reading program, Reading Readiness Made Easy, to reach out target learners in modular distance learning, but learning outcomes are challenged because teaching and learning in the new normal take place in the temporary learning space. The present action research aims to evaluate the effectiveness of paired reading through community learning facilitators as the para-teachers for the experimental group and parents for the control group to the existing reading program of Carusa Integrated School by using experimental research design. To recognize the importance of reading as a foundation of learning and to help the number of learners in the prostration reading level, Project Care for Norman Readers features beginning and developmental reading that aims to give learners who are lagging in reading and writing the opportunity to catch up through a specialized one-on-one reading assistance from a reading teacher. The project goal is to help learners who fall to prostration reading level become independent readers in their mother tongue, Filipino, and English. To aid this program with appropriate materials necessary to provide positive results, the Carusa Integrated School has launched and implemented its school's flagship program in reading, the Reading Readiness Made Easy, anchored to DepEd Division of Lanao del Norte's Project iRead. Learners under R2Me program will benefit most of anyone as they will receive one-on-one reading lessons 5 times per week or in most cases when an appropriate reading level is reached. Each lesson focuses on 4 parts: introductory sounds, combination of sounds, advanced sounds, and supplementary exercises, exemptions to configurations previously taught. These reading drills are adapted from the book Remedial Reading Drills by Torleif G. Hedge, Samuel E. Kirk, and Winifred D. Kirk. This will be followed by using CCMA tool or the Carusa compilation on Marongko approach, the CCFA, Carusa Compilation on Fuller Approach, and the CCRC or the Carusa Compilation on Reading Comprehension. If the program is effectively implemented, there is a greater chance that they will be able to catch up to their peers. Otherwise, these learners would develop poor reading skills and writing skills. R2Me aims to help non-readers and struggling learners read at their appropriate grade level by the end of the program. Second, provide a measurable increase in reading speed and reading attention span. Third, improve the reading skills by 1 or 2 levels by the end of the school year. And fourth, to support the Project CNR, a flagship program of the Regional Director of Region 10 in transforming non-readers to effective readers. The teaching and learning process of reading, which will be facilitated by the reading teacher, will progress gradually from introductory sounds to reading comprehension so that the reading readiness of each reader will be harnessed. Since the COVID-19 pandemic has brought restrictions in the traditional face-to-face learning in schools, the Carusa Integrated School adopts the initiative of the Department of Education to create and develop audio and video lessons for learners. In Lanao del Norte, the Carusa Integrated School is the only school to innovate and implement the reading program in the new normal. The R2Me reading programs has model teachers that uses explicit teaching approach in video lessons to facilitate the teaching and learning process. Traditionally, explicit teaching follows the I do, we do, and you do format. In I do, the model teacher demonstrates the task alone. On the other hand, the teacher and the learner perform the task together in we do. Finally, the learner independently accomplishes the task in you do. This experimental action research will test the effectiveness of paired reading in the R2Me program of Carusa Integrated School through community learning facilitators. Community learning facilitators serve as volunteers to facilitate learning in the absence of teacher in the modular distance learning. In line with the objectives of the proposed reading program of Carusa Integrated School to help frustration level read at their appropriate grade level by the end of the program, develop the 6 elements to become effective readers, and to harness reading readiness of frustration readers, this study will determine the effectiveness of paired reading in the school's Reading Readiness Made Easy program through community learning facilitators. Specifically, this research will answer the following questions. Number 1. What is the level of learners' reading performance of the controlled group and the experimental group before and after the intervention? Second, is there a significant difference between the controlled group and the experimental group in their reading performance in terms of pre-test and post-test scores? The participants of this action research were the 34 learners from grade 2 to grade 6 at Carusa Integrated School, Pulamuta, Kapatagan, Lanao del Norte for the school year 2020-2021. Who fall under frustration level in the Phil-ERI pretest in English. The results were collected by the researchers from their advisors. The participants were divided into 2 homogeneous groups, using sampling to create the controlled group with their parents as tutors, and the experimental group with community learning facilitators as tutors. Prior to the conduct of the reading activities, the reading tools were validated by the supervisors and education program specialists in English and reading. After the pre-test and the post-test instructional time, the data and results were analyzed to answer the research questions in this study. The data were analyzed quantitatively using Statistical Package for Social Science or SPSS. To determine the performance of frustration readers in controlled group and experimental group, the arithmetic mean was utilized. Lastly, the researchers used the t-test to determine the significant difference between the controlled group and the experimental group. This research quantified the learner's performance in reading through using percentage equivalence presented in Table 1 for the individual and group performance to be measured. Table 1, the Phil-Eyre oral reading profile, oral reading level and the comprehension score in percent. Independent, equivalent to 80 to 100%. Instructional, 59 to 79%, and the frustration, 58% and below. What is the level of learners' reading performance of the controlled group and the experimental group before and after the intervention? Table 3 shows the individual score and percentage of the learners' reading performance of respondents who belong to the controlled group. Table 3 shows that the Phil-Eyre pre-test result or before the implementation of reading intervention with the control group, 17 out of 17 or 100% of the respondents from grade 2 to grade 6 had belonged to frustration level. None of them belonged to instructional level and independent level. All the respondents had a mean score of 35.30, which indicated the frustration level based on Phil-Eyre reading profile in Table 1. Table 3 also shows that the Phil-Eyre post-test result or after the reading intervention with the parent as their facilitator, the respondents in the control group had 50.90% mean percentage score, hence 9 out of 17 respondents still belong to frustration level while 8 or 47.1% of respondents belong to instructional level. None of the respondents had belonged to independent level. The control group had belonged to frustration level performance as indicated by the mean score of 1.47. Table 4. The distribution of learners' reading performance of respondents who belong to the experimental group. Table 4 shows that the Phil-Eyre pre-test result or before the implementation of reading intervention with the experimental group, 17 out of 17 or 100% of the respondents from grade 2 to grade 6 had belonged to frustration level. None of them belongs to instructional and independent level. All the respondents had a mean score of 6.88 or 34.40%, which indicated the frustration level based on the learner's performance in reading weighted equivalence in Table 1. Table 4 also shows that the Phil-Eyre post-test result or after the reading intervention with the help of the Community Learning Facilitators or CLF. Table 4 also shows that the Phil-Eyre post-test result or after the reading intervention with the help of the Community Learning Facilitators or CLF, the respondents in the experimental group had 0% or none of the respondents belonged to frustration level. 11 out of 17 of respondents belong to instructional level. 6 out of 17 respondents belong to independent level. The experimental group had a high reading performance of independent level as indicated by the mean score of 16.24 based on the Table 1. Is there a significant difference between the controlled group and the experimental group in their reading performance in terms of pre-test and post-test scores? Table 5 shows the comparison of the pre-test and post-test of the control group on the performance test. It can be viewed from the table that standard deviation of the control group is 1.95 for pre-test and 3.15 for post-test, which show more speed scores in post-test. The 7.44 t-value and 0.000 p-value mean that in terms of prior knowledge, there is no significant difference in the reading performance of the learners from pre-test to post-test. Table 6 shows the comparison of the pre-test and post-test of the experimental group on the performance test. It can be viewed from the table that the mean of the experimental group is 6.82 for the pre-test and 16.29 for post-test, which show better performance in post-test. The 21.61 t-value and 0.032 p-value mean that in terms of prior knowledge, there is a significant difference in the reading performance of the learners from pre-test to post-test. Table 7 shows the comparison of the control and experimental group post-tests of the performance test. It can be interpreted from the table that the post-test of the experimental group is 16.29 while the control group is 10.18, which means the group performance of the experimental is better than the control group. The 9.30 t-value and 0.033 p-value mean that there is a significant difference between the post-test of the experimental and control group. Based on these thoughts, reading intervention with Community Learning Facilitator or CLF as para-teacher under Reading Readiness Made Easy program gave a very big influence on the learner's reading performance based on the post-test field area result. The results of the learner's performance in reading facilitated by the CLF and experimental group was different from the result of the learner's reading performance facilitated by the parents in the controlled group. The learners under CLF who undergone school-based trainings on how to teach reading produced higher reading performance results among learners. The learners were tutored regularly using the R2Me reading resources such as printed and audio-video lessons provided by the teachers. Pre-implementation phase, implementation phase, post-implementation phase. The researcher will disseminate and utilize his research findings in school-based learning action cell, semestral in-service training, district research, colloquium and division researchers conferences, and PTE meetings, school paper, and widely circulated paper for professional growth, schools improvement project, and to strengthen the research culture in the teaching profession. The result of this study revealed that the reading performance of the learners who have community learning facilitators is better than the reading performance of the learners without community learning facilitators based on the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. This implies that the reading program implemented by the school in the new normal is more effective if there are learning aids to assess the learners and the parents in teaching and learning reading. Based on the conclusions drawn from the study, the following recommendations are formulated. First, the school's division of Lanao del Norte, through the research and planning section, needs to disseminate the approved complete action research through virtual research presentation in the official research LDN channel and in Lanao Journal of Education Research to implement innovations on reading programs that would anchor on the 3Bs initiative, Project Care for Norman Readers, and Project I Read. Second, the school head needs to tap partnerships with the barangay local government unit and the non-government organizations to reward and sustain compensation to community learning facilitators aside from the local government units. Third, reading teachers and community learning facilitators undergo training workshops on factors that affect reading performance, such as motivation, sociocultural, cognitive and physical, and physiological. Reading teachers and community learning facilitators developed more contextualized and localized instructional materials for reading that may be utilized online and offline. Fourth, learners need to establish rapport with the community learning facilitators to promote confidence and active engagement in learning. Furthermore, learners should practice personal accountability for learning by participating in the reading program activities. Fifth, parents need to co-supervise and co-monitor the progress of their children's learning progress in reading at home. It is best that they reward their children for their improvement in reading and academic performance. Finally, future researchers need to conduct a qualitative study on the challenges that are encountered by the community learning facilitators that may affect the teaching and learning process. That ends my presentation of my action research. I hope that you have gained insights to innovate your reading program and to adapt learning aids in your chosen learning modality. Para sa bata, para sa bayan, sulong edukalidad.